Vodkast. Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. This is Vodkast 19, and it's been a minute, right? I know. I haven't been a good girlfriend. I haven't written you back. I haven't texted you back. Life update. 3 things I want to talk about in this video. Life update. I want to talk about what's happening with the mastering video and what I'm going to do about that. I do have some updates on that front. Some things I think are going to be helpful to you. And also I want to wade into this Spitfire stuff. I know the storm is blown over, Zimmer strings is out. It's still, I think, with intro pricing. When that flips, I'm not sure. Probably at the end of the month. So as we go into May, it'll go back to regular pricing. But I feel like I have some things to say, and my voice in that debate, I wanted to participate in those debates. I just couldn't do it in a meaningful way because of traveling and stuff with work. So I'm here now. I'm able to sort of sit down, do one of these things, and I think I have some things to say, some takeaways. We'll get there. I like to leave any shade I throw to the end of the video because most people, big companies, small companies, whatever, will watch the first 5 minutes and then disappear, so the algorithms tell me. So I feel safe saving it for the end, the good stuff, dessert. So let's start with the starter of the app, which is a life update. Oh my gosh, last video I did was Gullfoss, and that was really, by Sound Theory, by the way, a great plugin. And the reason I wanted to do it was, first of all, it's a Let's Plug video, so we're getting back into one of the things when I first started this channel, which was just to review plugins that were free or temporarily free, never torrented, free. 10-day trial, something like that. By the way, Vodkast, proper Vodkast. Not a vodka soda, a vodka ginger ale with some apple in there. Don't ask. I wanted to review this plugin because but just talk about it because I really feel like as a plugin, it represents, I think, in a very sensible, forward-thinking way, where we should be going with plugins. I think we should get away from coveting analog gear. We don't need another sort of 1176, LA2A, 660, 670, Fairchild. We don't need that stuff now. We know what the old stuff sounded like. We can model things pretty accurately. What we need are things that get us from A to B, B to C, C to D, whatever. What we need is smart DSP that can quantify stuff, that can find peaks, resonances, that can help us if we're in a suboptimal room with bad speakers we can't trust and ear fatigue, get us a good sounding result that we can trust. And I find that Gullfoss is able to do this. I also love the fact that we're at this stage in culture and technology where I can do a video for free. They have like a 10-day, 15-day trial or whatever, and they're responding. They're in the comments. I pin their very polite comment that they left on my channel on that review. I pinned it there so you can go read it. So it's great that we can have that kind of feedback. I love that vibe of just like, I do something, instant feedback, someone can comment, make up their own minds, go check out the plugin, see if it's for them. And I like that. I like the spirit of that, and I think it's something a lot of other companies should be trying to do, trying to bring people on with a trial, with something just to help them get their feet wet and see if it's worth it. And I've railed on not a few companies, but, sample library companies for not doing this. And the reason I have done that, the reason I've been critical is because there are ways you can help people. You can bring people into the circle if you're a sample library company. Obviously, with plugins, I get it. They're nimble, small, maybe 70, 80 megs. That's it. You can download a trial, whatever. With sample libraries, it's a much bigger ask, right? To give something like a 40 gig library from Spitfire away to someone and then, only to have them go, I don't like this, and then whatever. I understand that, but there's companies that are making it work and finding creative ways to do this. Some companies like East West will do, the Composer Cloud thing where for 20, 30 bucks, 35 bucks or whatever, you have access to everything. You can leave whenever you want. So that's a great way to demo anything you want. Vera Harmonic is a company who do the Soul Capture series, right? Where they have Bohemian Cello and Bohemian Violin. Those libraries, 5, 6, 7 gigs, I think. But if you just want to get your feet wet, try it, see if it's for you. They have free downloads where you can get a UVI sampler, just an instance of Bohemian Cello with one articulation. Get a feel for how the ballistics of the program works, and then go from there and see if it's for you. It's totally free. So I feel like I want to represent and I want to spotlight and shine and inform you guys of companies like VR Harmonic, like Sound Theory's Gullfoss, like those kind of people that really try and bring people into the circle and aren't trying to be like this premium product like a Starbucks coffee where you have to have enough money and get in line and make sure you have the vernacular correct and order it and get it. And, you know, I like these companies that are trying to bring people into the fold, that are aware that things can be downloaded, they can be torrented or whatever, but they're going to make it as easy for you to get in there legally and in a way that's very respectful and dignified. I don't like the walled gardens I'm seeing from some companies, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But watch that video. I'm happy I was able to do it, and the company responded, and they're super cool. They sound like really nice guys. They debuted it at NAMM. I didn't get a chance to go because I think I was doing something else at the time, maybe vomiting in a hospital. That's the other thing. The reason I've taken a bit of a hiatus from the channel is because all my energy and focus has been put in really to making sure that stuff with my job gets done, stuff with iZotope. So, you know, for people who feel it's gotten a little quiet on this channel, I know I went to Reddit. Is it weird to Google? You're not really Googling yourself on Reddit when you type your name into the search bar. That's not really totally, it's exactly what it is. But that's what I did. And someone was like, any good sites for composers, beginner composers or whatever, and my name came up, and it was like, oh, Manchester, Jeff Manchester's good, but his channel's been a little quiet since he got a job and everything. And I'm like, oh, it's true, it's true. And part of the reason for that is, again, I am doing stuff with iZotope. I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I'm at AES or NAB or one of these big things, or I'm in the office, or we're just getting new stuff together, so we need content to support it. But the other thing is that, like, I was sick. I was actually September, and you know, if you watch the channel, you watch the regular videos, you'll see me like coughing and sneezing and starting and stopping and editing and everything. I was back in September, before the 2017 to 18. I got really sick, and then October I got sick. November I got sick. December I was okay. January I got sick. Right around my birthday on the 11th. After that, I was in the hospital. And my girlfriend, you know, she is like 5'0" and weighs about as much as a photograph of herself. She's tiny. I'm tall. I'm a big guy. And she said to me when I was there, I had saline going into my arm and everything, and it was bad. It was a bad situation. She's like, I've never seen you so weak. You know, I'm not used to seeing you like that. It really scared me to see you so, you know, a tenth of the kind of man I'm used to, you know. So it was a bit of a wake-up call. So since then I've been hand sanitizing and trying to get some sleep and, you know, trying to eat better and not drink as much. Yeah, right. But health is important, as I put down my 4th drink tonight. But what I'm getting to is that I've taken some time away from the channel, and I have to focus more energy into my job and less energy into this. But I would say we could find some common ground here and not be so mad with me. If you go to the iZotope YouTube channel, you will see the videos that I've done. 2-minute tips for mixing low end, mixing guitars, bass, whatever. There's some RX stuff in the pipeline. All that stuff I think is still helpful to you if you're doing composing. You don't have to be doing, you know, composing. You don't have to be looking, you know, on my channel and making sure there's like a review or a technique thing based on a certain sample library or whatever to feel like it's relevant for you. That stuff that I'm doing, you know, low end is in everything. It's in everything. You know, vocals are in everything. Low end, it's all the same stuff. You know, it's all the same concepts, the same ideas. So, you know, just imagine I was doing videos, but I was doing them instead of on this channel, but, you know, for iZotope. And you can still take stuff away. That's why it's been so quiet, because the energies have shifted to the thing which allows me to pay rent. But I don't want to forget my commitments to this channel at all. I want to be here and be present, but also make sure I'm being healthy and checking in with you guys. And I love the Vodcasts because I can just be myself and do what I want and talk about what I want to talk about. I can't tell you how it hasn't been totally nerve-wracking doing these videos for other companies, overviews and reviews. They send me an NFR and I got to be to make sure that I know my stuff and go through the manual or whatever. But like, this is a little nerve-wracking to make sure that I get it right. And that's been happening a lot. I mean, East-West, let's just be honest, right? They were not too, well, you have to be careful when you say they. A few people there who matter and make important decisions were not totally pleased with the Hollywood Choir thing that I did. And so, they had new library come out on the 18th, and I did not get an email asking if I would review it or talk about it, right? It's stressful, because it's a bit like a mastering engineer or a mixing engineer, because you kind of live and die by your hits and by your clients, and when they don't call you for the next job, you wonder why. And it's nice to just do these vodcasts where I can just talk to you and be myself and relax, and that's what I want to do. A little bit of a life update. Trying to get back to the channel. I've been traveling a lot. I was at NAB in Vegas a few weeks ago. I guess one of the big life update things is I was having lunch with Daniel James, of all people, if you can believe it, who wasn't really the idea behind this channel, but he was in many ways an enabler for me. And by that I mean, I thought that I had to be, when I started this channel, like some cartoon, like, hey, check out my Patreon, like, what's up? I didn't want to do that. And I saw him doing what he was doing, and it was just pure information. Personality was there, but it was him, and he was swearing, just himself. And I thought, if he can be himself and have people watch and hang on to the words and follow up and write comments and questions, then I can do it. I can do it. So having lunch with him, I didn't tweet about this or whatever. Just whatever. I don't want to be that guy with like, let's take a selfie, Daniel. It's not me. Having lunch with him was crazy. He's a very nice guy. He is in many ways, just like he is on the channel, in that when you're around him, he's so honest that you kind of feel compelled to be just as honest. I interviewed him for the channel, but I hadn't met him in real life. It's hilarious. The dude is like, he's super talented, super driven, and funny, and he was eating a burger. He's very picky about his food. It's a Manchester Music exclusive here. I'm going to talk about Daniel James. He had this burger and he ate like half of it. It was like the best thing about America. He says America. I forgive him. Most people that are American or not from the States will say here in America, and it's like, dude, no, it's North America, and that's made up of, count them, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. So when Americans or whatever people say, like, oh, America, I was in America, or like American, like, no, dude, North America, you are in the United States. That's the country. You are not the whole world, America. Anyway, the great thing about America, he said, was you can just take anything away. If you don't want to eat the whole thing, you can take it back. And he's like, I have a pretty small appetite, and he pointed at his very lean. He's like, you probably have a, you can probably eat more. Or whatever. I was like looking at myself next to him, this driven, thin man. And I look at, go back to the hotel. I take my shirt off and just stare into the mirror and think about my life choices. Yeah, he's a nice guy, really nice guy. Good stories, great stories about the industry. But that to me was a bit of a milestone, just to be able to sit down and have lunch with him. Very interesting guy. Funny, smart, but very interesting guy. He's got a lot of stories. And we talked about Spitfire. This was kind of I'm not sure if you guys know this, but Spitfire, a little indie company, released a product called Zimmer strings or something. Anyway, it was interesting, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But wrapping up the life update, getting back to my health and me. It's all about me on this channel. You guys know that. Little sip here. It's been crazy, and it's only going to get crazier for the next little month and a half or so, and then there's more traveling, and summer's coming along, and anyway. But thanks for being patient. We're not answering questions in this vodcast. I'm sorry, it's just not one of those vodcasts. We're going to talk about what I want to talk about. Get back into the channel. Also, and this feeds into what I'm going to talk about. Ian Shepherd, who runs a great podcast called The Mastering Show, just mentioned this vodcast in his Mastering Show, the latest episode. So that was really kind of him. So thank you, Ian, if you're watching. I doubt you are because you're a busy guy. But appreciate it. His podcast is great, by the way. Like, his podcast has reviews and there's structure and it's edited. It's not like some dude with a pot belly drinking vodka. you should check it out. Speaking of mastering, and this does transition properly into what I want to talk about. Some of you may know that I had offered, an idea of like, let's do a mastering tutorial series on this channel. And this is maybe naive of me. It was back in October, maybe September, maybe August. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. But the idea was we're going to do, I need an object in my hands. Have you noticed this? This just gives me power. I'm going to pick up a pen. I've lost it. I got to go back to this. I was going to do, see, this works. It's all in the object. I was going to do a series on mastering. We're going to start with EQ, compression, or whatever. I solicited feedback from this community, which, by the way, hit 9,000 people. Thank you very much. That's amazing. It was like 2 days ago, hit 9,000. That's awesome. It's amazing. Who knew we'd be here? And there was a lot of smart questions, good comments, feedback, blah, blah, blah. I say naive because it really was naive. I cannot do this. I cannot do a mastering. I realized I just can't do it. I can't do it in the same way that some companies, and it still comes in. I still get emails. Even a few days ago, another company wanted me to do a review on a product. And it sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not complaining that I'm getting the attention that people want me to basically help them market their stuff on the channel. It's just that I can't do reviews because I cannot commit the time I think these products deserve. I can't. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that I just looked at the questions that were coming in and the thoughtful replies and everything, and I'm like, I can't structure a whole course around this. I'm just too busy. I can't do it. And if I were to do it, it would feel kind of perfunctory and maybe just like we're going through the motions together, and that's not good. That's not real. That's not genuine. I can't do reviews for that reason. I feel like I really need to sit with a product. The YouTube culture is now such that a review is really just someone trying to get there first with SEO, search engine optimization, be the first one in the algorithm. It's really nothing more, at least in the sample library world, than a kind of dressed up walkthrough or overview or first impressions video with some kind of score at the end, which I feel, if you've seen this channel, and some people might be tuning out now because they've heard this record a couple times, I just feel it's lazy and disingenuous, and I felt that I would do the same kind of thing were I to construct a mastering class on this channel at this time. So, and it's a shame because I've learned a lot about mastering since joining iZotope. Super smart people there doing mastering, in-house mastering for some of our marketing and some of our content. Also just hanging out with a very smart guy named Jonathan Weiner who works for he's our educational director here at iZotope. Here, I'm in Toronto. What am I talking about? And he's mastered everything, from Nirvana to everything that David Bowie put out on RCA, everything. So, but I can't do it. So what I'm building to here in the second part is I got to adjust my posture. Got to get involved here. What I'm getting at, good vodka. You guys are troopers, by the way, for sticking through these and just watching me flail about. We're going to get, well, I want to shepherd you, pun absolutely intended, to Ian Shepherd, who is a friend of mine. He's a mastering engineer. He's been mastering for about 25 years, 20 plus years or whatever. He runs a course called the Home Mastering Masterclass. Okay, I took this course. Let me put this into perspective for you. It's, I think, 8 videos deep. There's a robust Facebook community to which you will belong after doing the course, where you can actually right away, right as you start, where Ian's there, friends who've taken the course are there. It's a great course. It's not very expensive. When I say put it into perspective, here's what I'm talking about. I went to Recording Arts Canada, which is a for-profit with a capital P school, audio engineering school here in Toronto. I can say that now because most of the people, you've seen earlier videos from me, by the way, on this school, should you go to an audio engineering school. I still stand by those videos and the opinions, made in them. I still think it is valuable to go, but I can say some negative things about the school now because most of the people that I really love and respect that were there are now gone. The director died this year, so it's just a shell of what it used to be, and the curriculum has been tweaked around, and it's kind of insane. But what I'm building to here is that the mastering there was a mastering component to that curriculum, but it was really, again, perfunctory. It was really kind of, let's just make sure that we have something for the students. It was a year-long course, and we learned how to do everything from 7.1 mixing to, I don't know, whatever you want, Foley and re-recording. And anyway, we spent one day on mastering. It was kind of pathetic. A lot of people were very disappointed. And so I felt like I really, with this home mastering masterclass, which I'm not selling, there's no affiliate link here in my description, I took Ian's course, and I felt like this is like what I have been waiting for. This is the class that that I hoped I would get when I joined this, again, very expensive for-profit audio engineering school that I just didn't get, because you guys know that I compose. I was going to say primarily a composer, but one of my main passions before I joined YouTube and audio engineering school was mastering. I wanted to learn so much about mastering, and the best I could do really was, X number of blog posts that were like 15 tips to get a better master and 20 tips, or, go buy some book or whatever. I wanted to be in a classroom environment where I had feedback with an instructor and a community of people with, great content. And this course provides that in spades. And that's why I feel like this is what you guys should be doing. If you guys should do any sort of online education or education in general, because forget about shadowing someone nowadays or being an apprentice or being, what's the word I'm looking for, mentored by a mastering engineer. You're not going to get it. So this is why this course makes sense. I highly recommend it. I'm going to have Ian on my channel to discuss the course. He's also going to answer some of the questions that you guys asked in the what do you want to see in a mastering class, because you guys had some very specific questions which I can pose to him. And really, this is like, I don't know what credibility I have here on this channel or in my own work or whatever at Isotope or whatever, but I'm giving my endorsement to this home mastering masterclass. I really am. And there'll be more information. I'll include some information about how to sign up and everything, but this is like, you're in good hands with Ian. It's a great course, great class. He's a real ally in the loudness wars and making sure that your tracks are dynamic, and he's positioned so perfectly for the streaming service kind of integration now, and how streaming services are, but for better for worse, the debut venue for new music and all that stuff. And just to make sure that you're on the cutting edge of all these delivery systems and output formats, he really is there. That you're not learning from someone who learned everything they felt they needed to know in 2000, and now they're just writing books and touring. This guy is working with clients, creating content. He has a website, productionadvice.com. It's awesome, always updating, so you always feel like your finger's on the pulse. It's great. So we're going to talk more about that. I apologize to anyone who really wanted to learn with me, but this is the best I can do, is to sort of put you in the care of Ian, and I think you're in very good care. I think you're in a very good place. And I'm doing this also because, like, I didn't want to let this slide. I didn't want to just like pretend that I never asked you guys about the home mastering, about the mastering class, because I know I did. And the reason I say that is because it hurts my heart to see some of the comments on that video. Especially from people who, there's this one buffoon who's been on the channel for a long time now, and he was like, actually, I've already done a course on this. Come check out my video. And like the algorithms didn't catch the link, so it posted. I looked at it, and what the dude is doing is just like showing you how he masters with like basically just a preset, like a module chain of, X, Y, and Z, or Z for my American fans. And it hurts my heart, because if you think that mastering is, building a sausage maker and into which you take a bunch of assorted meats and just crank out the same sausage every time, bottom line, if you think that mastering is using a preset, I don't know if there's a lot of hope for you. We have to really sort of like, shake you by the ankles, disabuse you of a lot of myths and terrible information and get you started from scratch, because that is not what mastering is. And it's just anyway, anyone who thinks that mastering is just using, a reliable, consistent signal path, and who isn't thinking about the room and the acoustics and the way sound behaves and the right monitoring setup and the right metering setup and the right headphones and just the right kind of mindset that is required to listen to music in an objective way, and also assess how you're thinking of what the client wants versus your own biases and your own, feelings about a particular genre and where you've come from and your own sort of musical journey, and weighing those things and helping the client understand why bringing something up in loudness might be detrimental to the final creative idea that was worked on at the tracking mixing stage, and how it might be compromised if you do that, or like, do you really want to add 4K here on the stereo bus where the vocal is, like on a pop track? Do you really want to do that in mastering? You need to understand the context for those decisions and how they might play out in the real world. So the idea that, hey, I just use a preset, like, it hurts my heart. It's embarrassing that anyone feels like that's what mastering is, because it just ain't. But it's not so high-minded and pie-in-the-sky that you cannot learn. After all, it's the Home Mastering Masterclass with Ian Shepherd. This is for people who do not have access and might never consider going into $1 million room and want to do it from home. It can be done. But there's a lot to learn. So we'll talk more to Ian about that. Okay. And yeah, questions or comments, obviously just leave them and we'll talk about them. I want to finish now on Spitfire, because I feel like I have a lot to say. I talked to Daniel about this, and not that like Daniel is endorsing what I have to say or anything, but it just reminded me. I was in LA for my first time. We had a burger. Well, I had like way more than a burger, because he's, a smart, lean, charismatic, gregarious person that doesn't need to stuff his face with food. I'm not. We had a great meal. Why am I getting back to this? I'm insecure. If you highlight stuff, chances are you're a little embarrassed about it. If you look at other people's, like if you're worried about your hair loss, you'll look at other people's hair. Your pot belly, you'll look at their whatever. See what you notice in other people, chances are you're just kind of projecting, and it's your own stuff you're trying to deal with. And that's what I really want to talk about on this episode now. Let's talk about Spitfire audio, like they aren't listening, because they're probably not. Obviously, it's been a few weeks, and this story might be a tired one for people. I get it. I just feel like I have some things to say. I really do. About this release, about the direction of the company, about the about the priorities, or at least the priorities as I perceive them as, a private citizen who downloads this stuff. And believe me, I just did my taxes, and I know how much money I put into Spitfire's coffers. A lot. I want to preface by saying that I'm a loyal Spitfire user. I have bought a lot of their things. I am in the Spitfire camp, I think, musically. I'm inclined to that kind of sound that they already kind of cater to. I don't like the big bwah stuff. The late, hurts my heart to say this, the late Johan Johansson, that kind of vibe where we have layer upon, curtain upon, veil of lush, organic kind of pads, and through out of that, some kind of melody emerges like a Trent Reznor thing. That's the stuff I love. I don't need hybrid scoring. I don't need, Jaeger stuff. I don't know what the libraries are these days. I like that stuff. And Spitfire, I think, really serves those people. I think if you want to go hard, they've got stuff like Phobos, and you can distort things and all the rest of it. But I think at their core is this desire to capture quiet stuff and delicate stuff and flatandos, and that's what they do, and they do it very well. Which is why when I saw this Zimmer strings thing, I thought, what? That's kind of weird. And that was the vibe going in it for a lot of people who, like I said at the beginning of the of this video, it's not very harmonic. Spitfire does not have a demo option. They don't have a subscription option. You can just jump in for $40 a month, see if you like it, and get out. You really have to rely on the demos that they present, the in-house marketing, and the extent to which you believe the influencers like Daniel James, like Ashton Gleckman, to name a few. I'm not sure who else is sort of working the scene now. I guess the sample review people, but we don't we don't have to go there. you don't have an opportunity to jump in, so you really have to sort of take the company at their word, use your judgment, listen to what the other voices are saying in the community, the influencer community, the YouTube community. You can go to the forums as well. VI Control is one where I know there's been a lot of sort of digital ink spilt and chatter about this library. But when I saw it, I thought Zimmer strings, okay. You know, in my mind, you know, instantly, that connoted a kind of Batman Inception, the Zimmer that we all know, and that became very clear. It became very clear that that was not the direction this library was going in. But that, you know, people I don't think could be helped from thinking that, really, when you look at putting Zimmer's name there and also seeing the magnitude of players that were captured and everything. But the deeper you go into the story and the whole Steve Jobs marketing thing in Air Studios and, you know, articulations you've never heard before and the best sampling and the quietest, the story just became very confused for me. So we've recorded the most amount of players, but at very, very quiet levels, and the smallest, most, you know, because that's what, according to Spitfire, Zimmer's known for, is like capturing performances very, very quiet and turning them up? What? So I don't, the story to me, the marketing story of this was very confusing. Plus, I felt like Spitfire had kind of shot themselves in the foot because Albion 5 is, I'll be honest with you, little joke there, more than enough, really. I mean, you've got beautiful lush strings, soft strings recorded, what was it, at the edge of silence? I mean, same marketing pitch, right, for Zimmer strings, more or less. The DNA is similar anyway. Plus, I say shot in the foot because you get all kinds of value with that release, right? You get the grid stuff, you get the steam band stuff, you get percussion, plus you get, as far as I remember, you know, reeds and horns, everything. And if that isn't enough for you, then there's symphonic strings, right, which is already pretty intense and epic. And as we saw from people like Gleckman and people like Daniel James, to get where you needed to go and make this Zimmery, you were layering Zimmer strings, right? And you can layer Tundra, you can layer symphonic strings and get some pretty intense results, right? Add some maybe distortion from your DAW, from your native plugins or whatever, and get where you needed to go. This, to me, I was worried, and I guess correctly so anyway, that this was not a Zimmer as we know Zimmer library. This was a Zimmer as Spitfire Audio knew Zimmer, as maybe Christian Henson knew Zimmer. I really feel like people cannot be faulted for having thought this would be a different library, and we also can't be faulted, you know, for having a little bit of anger with regard to the release because we couldn't play it. We couldn't try it before. We just had to take the demos at their word, really. And you saw the dialogue back and forth. I mean, Daniel came out with his 5-hour-long, the first video that he did, which, by the way, was not a negative video. I mean, it was him sort of expressing in real time his frustration that what was advertised, putting Zimmer's name there, it was not necessarily what you got in the library. Now, that isn't to say that the library doesn't sound good, that it wasn't captured intelligently, that the parameters and controls weren't laid out in a very elegant way, that we've ditched contact because we get a better experience for the customer. He didn't say any of that. He was frustrated that this name attached to the library wasn't really what he had expected. And I don't think he's wrong for generalizing that sentiment and going, I bet a lot of other people thought it would be a different library too. Like, I don't think he's wrong at all. But people didn't really watch the video. They sort of expected, because I guess Daniel is now this kind of person who you kind of love or hate. I don't know, whatever. But if you watch the video, I think he's impressed with some of the sounds and everything, but it does not do Zimmer stuff, according to him. And also, I feel like that's not without merit. I believe that that is also the sentiment of a lot of people who saw this release with the big, you know, Zimmer name and everything. So, again, confusing story. Most players, quietest thing. What? And you looked at the videos and they weren't even sort of like powerful Zimmery, and the best we could do, or the best Spitfire could do, was articulations you've never heard before. I've heard that before in their marketing, and, you know, incredibly well recorded, captured stuff, and really impressive mic arrays and outriggers and all the rest of it. They go to that playbook for almost every one of the releases. Nothing necessarily new. The biggest new thing was really ditching contact, and also the price tag, which is, I think it's $5.99, $7.99. It's on sale for $5.99 US. Not sure when that'll go back, but when it does, it's $7.99, which works out to $1,000 Canadian for me to pick that up. I don't think I will. And I mention all this because I think it was a little bit disappointing underneath the sort of ire that it wasn't a Zimmery sort of library, which again, I'm sympathetic to. I don't need it to be that library. We have those libraries. Other companies have that. They're doing a good job, you know. I think it was a disappointment in the innovation of Spitfire. If you look at Heaviosity's Novo, we get that right away. We understand what that is. That is a kind of rhythmic gated take on strings. You know, you look at Output, what they're doing with analog strings and stuff like that. Okay, cool, got it. You know, that's different, twisted and distorted and mangling and sound design approach to strings. You know, got it. Look at Sonokinetic, who I respect a lot. People kind of poop on phrase libraries, but I love phrase libraries. You know, they form the backbone of a lot of cues, not just, you know, mine, but a lot of people. They'll use that in the background. They came out with Noir, I guess I should say. Nobody expected that. You know, no one expected a jazz library from them, really. And look at Spitfire. You know, the whole year they've been releasing, you know, I can't believe it's not Mural. You know, like retooled old libraries with new mic positions, fancy new skins. I guess they had the Bleeding Finger stuff, but for them, I think that was more an opportunity. That was a contract thing, because I think BBC wanted them to do something for that release, and I think they were able to bundle it into a library for people. So it was like, oh, we got tasked by BBC or whatever to do this thing. We were Bleeding Fingers. Hey, maybe there's a library we can sell, and I'm happy. That's just smart. That's just smart planning. You know, cool. If you have a job, you can turn it into a library, kill two birds with one stone, make some money. Cool. I love that library. I really do. Olafur Arnold, Evos, which was, again, another shade of kind of Evo stuff. So it wasn't really earth-shaking new stuff. And a lot of people were expecting a core library from them. They teased it, you know, to bits, really. And then what did we get? This big marketing, you know, on stage, and it was promoted on Henson's channel, which we'll talk about in a minute. It was promoted, you know, with these very oblique, you know, just one photo emails. When you click on them, they go to the landing page on the website, which is just the same image with no more information. Like, why are you emailing me this? Why are you sending me these cryptic messages like these Ted Bundy things that mean nothing and have no more information once you get to the actual website? What? Anyway, so what did we get? We got Zimmer strings, which I think kind of disappointed some people. Obviously, I'm sure the numbers are pretty good for Spitfire, because there's a lot of people who love it on the forums and YouTube or whatever. And to some degree, it's kind of hypocritical for me to pass judgment on this library because I haven't played with it. I can't afford it. I just can't. I can't justify it. I think I know what it is, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job with Albion 5, with symphonic strings. I think I'm doing okay. I don't need it. But this feeds into this other angle of Spitfire, which I can't help but mention, which is the sentiment that the company has moved toward it's kind of all about marketing now, or they've relied very heavily on marketing, I feel, more than the development of new products. Now, I don't obviously work there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what they're working on and how they're building products and stuff, but I just feel like there's been a real push to get drones and put Christian on a mountain and everything, but where are the new products? Where are the new offerings? You know, you look at Sonic Couture. Love that company. They release stuff that you would never expect them to release. Stuff you can't pronounce, with GUIs that are totally inventive and we didn't see coming. With Spitfire, it's big marketing, oblique, weird, bizarro emails that come in that link to products that, I guess, you know, another shade of Evo, another kind of flavor of Evo, or another Olafur thing, or, you know, a retooling of Hans Zimmer percussion or something. You know what I mean? It's not really new. And so there is this sentiment out there, especially from people in the community, like, I'm not naming names, I'm not going to name names, but that it's become a little bit more style than substance. And I have to kind of agree. If you, again, look at the product lineup. in the last year or so. I think LCO was the first real, like, oh, okay, this is cool, this is new, this is different, I get it. And that was the big differentiator for me in that company. That was the first time I felt we had something really new and exciting from them in a while. But I want to move over, again, I'm very discursive with these videos, as you guys know. I want to move over to the Christian Henson music channel. So I've had some issues with this guy's channel for a while now, because I feel like, first of all, can we just get the pros out of the way here? The dude knows how to compose a shot. He knows how to get a very clear, tightly organized video, well scripted, well organized, and have a great mix of info and entertainment. And he gives away stuff, beautifully sampled stuff, and not just gives away material stuff that we can load into a sampler and use and feel special for having, but it's also life balance advice, techniques, and all the rest of it. But feeding into this idea of Spitfire becoming very style-oriented, I just can't help but feel like I'm being marketed to when I watch that channel. And I know some people are just, they're like, hey, Jeff, this guy started Spitfire. He started the channel, He started the company. Of course he's going to talk about Spitfire. But take a shot every time he says the word, please. Or every time he walks into work and you see the Spitfire logo. Or, it's just constantly about Spitfire. And that's okay because, again, it's in his DNA. It's there. It's who he is. He's one of the co-founders of the company. I understand that. But I think for me, I reached a point where I just kind of had to say something on this channel when... And he's not watching. They're not watching. Who cares? When he did a video on... I don't remember if this was his channel. He would flip to it right now because he's very good at editing, and I just can't be bothered. He did a bit on what libraries he uses, and he said with a straight face, I don't use any libraries outside of Spitfire libraries. I just don't. I don't use any libraries outside of Spitfire. He uses effects stuff and effects processing and time-based stuff, TC Electronics and Altiverb and all that stuff. But when it comes to strings or anything, it's just Spitfire only. And that's when I went, really, really, dude. I mean, this just reinforces the idea that this channel, however well-intentioned and however terrific, and it is, I shouldn't say however, for as great as the content is and everything, you are being marketed to every video multiple times. You just are. You are. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you sit there and say, I don't use any libraries other than Spitfires, come on. Really? You think Daniel James would do a video where he was like, and I'm putting words in his mouth now, and I might get a message from him or whatever, but they don't watch this channel like they watch his, so who knows? You think he could sit there and go, so I have a question here. Someone wants to know what libraries I use. I only use, Hybrid 2, Project Alpha, Project Bravo. That's all I use. And, some custom stuff that I built or whatever. You gotta be laughed out of the room, and I don't know. Marketing is marketing. You got to sell products and support people that work at the company that put the blood, sweat, and tears in so that they can make money and make more products that we all love and talk about and review and make us better composers. But don't tell me that the only libraries that you ever use are Spitfires. Come on. And I get it, and people might push back and say, Jeff, the dude is, and he is, a very technically savvy, skilled sample library maker. So if Spitfire doesn't have something and doesn't want to use a competitor's product, then he can sample it, and he probably can. Probably do a really good job at it. He's shown us how he does it before, and he's opened it up in a very democratic way to show people how to sample. The dude can probably sample whatever he doesn't have that the company doesn't make. But he did another video on how to start it, how to do like a setup or whatever for your first time or whatever. And it was like decked out Mac Pro and everything. And then at the bottom it was like chamber strings and Albion 1, which are all great. But like, come on, it's marketing. You're marketing to me. And by the way, if you don't feel like you're being marketed to on Christian Henson Music, and please remember all the good things I said about this guy. And he is, in my estimation, a very good person. He really is. But if you don't think you're being marketed to, the CEO, Will Evans, he used to be a sales guy, right, for the company. He just got promoted to CEO, sales and marketing. So if you don't think you're being marketed to, the guy who used to run marketing is now the CEO of Spitfire. And what does that tell you? That tells you that if you don't know you're being marketed to, it's really good marketing. Really good marketing. Marketing isn't an advertisement, by the way. It's not putting up a poster and being like, buy this, on sale now. Marketing is finding new and interesting ways to get to your customers who might have bought one product a long time ago and have been on the fence about upgrading, or maybe you're trying to reach them on Instagram, or maybe you're trying to reach them through some sort of competition or contest or some sort of way, a nurture stream, something to build, value for them. And that's what Spitfire is so good at doing. And that's what that's what his channel is. It's a kind of crypto marketing arm that has really important content built in, stuff that you can give away and everything, good life advice, good work balance stuff. But we have moved away, guys, from the YouTube of let's upload some silly videos and see what happens. And we have moved to click like and subscribe. Check out my Patreon. That's where we are now. So just nothing wrong with marketing. It's not a dirty word. Just know when you're being marketed to. And I just feel like it kind of crossed the line a little bit when he said, I only use Spitfire libraries. That's when, to me, I just thought, oh, no, please don't say that. Like, please, let's not do this. Could we just be honest? Let's not do this now. This is a channel people come to and rely on and love, and let's not play this game where we just, where we say things like that. So that's how I feel. But bottom line is, if my taxes are any indication, and the purchase that I made last year, I will continue buying Spitfire stuff happily. They make beautiful stuff. It always impresses the clients that I have, and sometimes, it's just like holding one note down does the job. Holding a really fancy chord and making sure your automation is in check and on point, and that's kind of all you need with the right time-based effects, the right delay and reverb. Some of the Spitfire patches are just beautiful. So I'm not hating on the company, but I'm just trying to point out a very kind of complicated direction I think the company is going in. And, promoting the guy who does marketing to CEO is just like, But it makes sense because, if you don't know you're being marketed to, they're doing a really good job. And that's what it's come to. It's getting harder and harder, really, for people to harder and harder for companies to tell people to upgrade and get them to buy new stuff, especially if you're Spitfire and you're charging $1,000 Canadian for a string library. So marketing is all about finding new ways to reach people, because we've got our ad blockers up, we've got our systems in place to make sure that we're hanging out in our bubbles and our silos. So what do? You have a channel like Christian Henson Music where you find a way to make it not look like marketing, but that's what it is, and that's okay. But I just felt like I needed to say it and get it out there. And I suppose the last thing I want to say about this is just a question of optics, how something looks. So I think Spitfire is aware of its reputation as a premier, Starbucks style, product, a lifestyle product as well. But they're also, I think, aware of the fact that a lot of people have the perception of them that their products cost a lot of money, that they're expensive, high end. I don't think they do anything to sort of get away from that image. But I would say on an optics level, and Christian, I doubt you're watching, but if anyone from Spitfire is watching, consider the optics of having a channel where a man flies to work seemingly every day, is showing off some new drone or some new camera or some new Mac Pro, some new piece of fancy technology that costs a lot of money, or he's taking the train first class into work every day, or taking a cab in London, which is insane, or staying at a fancy London hotel, or bragging about getting, upgraded to the suite and bringing the camera around and everything. So you have this person doing that, and then you have them selling you a string library for $1,000 with Zimmer's name on it, and it doesn't really sound like the Zimmer that we've all come to know and love. And the last year you've just kind of spent marketing the crap out of libraries that are essentially retooled, reshaded, reskinned, new, again, mic positions and all the rest of it. Consider the optics of those two things together plus the perception that things cost too much, it's too expensive for a lot of people, or they might, save their tax returns so they can, afford their first Spitfire library. So just think of the optics of those three things together, I think, from a marketing perspective. And just think about how that helps people make decisions about what they should buy and who they should buy from. I know how I feel about that. It's kind of, I feel like a lot of those ideas exist in kind of opposition to each other. However well-intentioned and informative the company and its people are, and however hardworking they are, just consider the optics of those things together. So, thanks very much for watching. Take care. Ooh, 3:45 a.m. Good thing I have Saturday off. All right, leave a comment, like, subscribe. Anyway, that's funny. Bye.